Okay, going live in 1 second.
All right. Thank you. All right, so thank you, everybody. This is our final CEC meeting of the 2022 or 2021-2022 school year. Thank you guys for coming. I think it's been a pretty good year. We're gonna do some review and work towards how we make 2022 to 2023 even better. So let's start with who we have in the building. So I see David first. David, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm David Warner, board member and proud father of a Woodlands graduate.
And I see Edith next.
Hi, I'm Edith Horn, I'm a concerned citizen, retired school teacher, 40 years of service.
Thank you. Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie McGee. I'm a parent of a 7th grader at Woodlands.
Got it. Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Ross Johnson. I'm a parent of a soon-to-be 7th grader. He's graduating this Friday from Bailey.
Congratulations.
Oh.
Liz.
Hi, I'm Liz Anastasi. I'm the head of youth services at Greenburgh Public Library.
Okay, and last but most certainly not least, we have Dr. Iverson.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Iverson, Superintendent, Greenburgh Central School District. Good evening.
Okay, so on tonight's agenda, we are going to adopt our meeting minutes. We're going to get an update from the superintendent. We will get an update from Liz on our summer reading program. We'll do some 2022 year reflection, as well as work through scheduling next year's CEC meetings, and then we'll see if anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, and that's what our meeting will be like. So I'm going to first pull up the meeting minutes from our last meeting. So it says host has disabled participant screen sharing. Can you give me access, please?
Yes, please. 1 sec.
Yeah.
You should be good now.
Thank you. Okay, so on May 2nd, 2022 at 7 p.m., we had the Community Engagement and Communications meeting. Our attendees were Manny Arasis, Liz Anastasi, Dr. Iverson, Edith Horn, Jackie Burton, Denise Alamo, David Warner, and myself. We recognized Teacher Appreciation Week, adopted our meeting minutes from 03/28/2022. Had some updates from Dr. Iverson, who also celebrated, let us know how the school celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week. I put Teacher Action Week here, so I put my own my own mistake. We'll get that changed right now. Dr. Iverson gave some updates on our communication policies and what we're doing about getting those updated. She also gave us a update on summer school and the summer reading list. So Liz added some information in there as well, and she will get the opportunity to give us some additional updates tonight. Superintendent talked about community engagement and the potential engagements with the community. I know that she has either planned or done an event that connects with what's there, so she will share that. We had COVID updates and the strategic plan updates as well. We went through a number of different community announcements from the past month, and then we closed the meeting at 8:06. Does anyone have anything that needs adjustment on the minutes? And yeah, of course I'll stop there.
Probably don't need to say 7 p.m. twice at the top.
Got it. Anything else anybody sees? All right, so I move that we adopt our 5/22/22 CC meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? All right, meeting minutes are adopted. Okay, So next up on the agenda, we have our Superintendent CDC updates. It's your last update of the year for the CEC. Dr. Iverson, what's going on?
Quite a few things. Busy time of year. Lot of recognition ceremonies so far. We had the 8th grade moving up recognition ceremony last week. This Friday we had Bailey, and then of course the Friday after on the 24th is the high school. What I will just announce, and it was in my weekly message, and there'll be a rolling message on the website. Just as a matter of just making sure the community is aware that the commencement ceremony for the high school this year will be a closed campus. As you know, as we're on the heels of Uvalde and just trying to secure the environment, it's just too wide open. We are going to only students and spectators and visitors with tickets will be permitted. And so each high school student will get 5 tickets, as I guess they've gotten in the past. But we're limiting the traffic and people walking in back on the campus during the commencement this year. So we've upped the rigor a little bit about that. So that was on it's on the website, and that was in my message. Greenburgh Police will be present, only as a means to just secure us and to assure that everything goes peaceful and nice and in the order and pomp and circumstance that we want the commencement to be. I do understand in the past, and it is a glorious time for people to come back, alumni, I understand that. But for the purposes of where we are nationally and emotionally and, just securing, making sure everyone is safe, we felt it necessary to do that this year. So that's being advertised daily on the website. So if you could get the word out to make sure people know that we are limiting that. Is different for those programs in auditorium. We can control for a little bit better, but the campus is just too wide open, too many entrances, and we just need to be a little more careful. So that's the first announcement. The second one is today we kicked off the summer reading, and I know Liz is on the call. She may want to add. So I got around to the schools to just see them kick off their reading program. Every school did something differently, but they recognized the kickoff of summer reading. So at the ECP level, the teachers read a book, Pete the Cat book, and provided supportive activities to reflect the story. So that's what they engaged in during their activity. Grade 1 at Jackson and grade K. They read the book. Pete the Cat book again, and they completed an extension activity of the activity ECP, not the same level, but they read the same book, Pete the Cat Goes Camping. So, Pete the Cat Goes Camping was for those kindergartners, entering kindergartners, and ECP entering K, those who are ECP going to K, they read Pete the Cat, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, so cute. And they did an activity on that. Now, those first graders going into second grade at Jackson, they read aloud, and I was there for that. Mr. Mahel, the Highview teacher who we share with Jackson, we put all the little second graders, first graders into the auditorium, and they had on their little hats they had drawn with their best food that they love to eat during the summer. It's just everyone's so cute. And Mr. Mahel did a read aloud, and you know what this means, Miss Horn. You know what a read aloud is. He pulled out the book, Mercy Watson to the Rescue. And he read it to the students and animated a little bit. And so that was what they did for the upcoming first graders. And the kindergartners there were going into first graders. So that's what I'm getting confused. That was what they did for the second graders, first going to second. Those kindergartners now going to first, they did it outside. Their whole group reading was outside. I went over to Highview, and this was amazing. Mr. Mastrangelo was on the roof, and the students were told that they had a guest reader today. And they were so excited, to see who this guest reader was. So they all come out, they all in their rows sitting, and they hear the signal. You remember Miss Horn, 1, 2, 3 to get quiet. Everyone gets quiet and looks around. And this person starts reading the book and they look up, it's their principal.
Oh,
He's sitting
wow.
on a little bit of the ledge. I just was, and he read the story to the
Oh,
students.
wow.
And so he read the first chapter of the summer reading book to all of the students, and they then went
And
back to the classroom. They had popsicles after that, and they went back to the classroom. Light activities, they did some activities.
what was
there.
the name of that book? What was the name of that
The
book?
name of the book was Magic Tree House Afternoon on the Amazon. So those were your entering third graders reading that. And then those entering fourth graders, they read Pi, P-I-E, and Mr. Mastrangelo did the very same things. So now at Bailey, they have 7 sections of classes in 5th grade, and we have so many classes in 4th and 6th. So I went around to all the groups. They all had different sections of the playground. They sat on very quietly. They all had developed. Liz, did you know they had all ordered these shirts? These shirts were just the cutest, and on the back of the shirt were these character words: trustworthy, and faithfulness, integrity, friendship. They all had shirts on. They all had their books in their hand. They came out, they went to certain sections of, and they read, the teacher read to them. So it was just really, really nice. And so I will tell you, those entering 5th grade read the book, Save Me a Seat. Those entering 6th grade read So Be It. Those entering 7th grade read the book 11. And they did activities on that. And then now we're at the middle school, entering 8th grade read the book Restart. And 9th graders, I don't have anything here. Listen, 9th graders do anything for the 9th grade? I just have entering 8th grade, those going up. I don't know if 9th and 10th grade participated in that. They just have here that the ELA teachers visited the 8th grade ELA classrooms to discuss the summer reading. So that's what the teachers did at those grades, 9th and 10th and 11th and 12th. But the students entering 8th grade did engage in a reading activity. So that was the kickoff of our summer reading program. What you think?
I think that sounds great. I like the idea of the principal
Yes.
on the roof. That would give me a little, I have to tell you, I would have the willies looking at him. I'm trying to picture it.
Yes.
That he was sitting on the edge. And that would give me the
Legs
willies.
hanging over, yes.
I will tell you that Gary Mastrangelo, when I went up to inspect the roof, by going up the ladder in the middle, he kind of went, "Be my guest," and didn't follow me up. So I think it's like a delayed challenge. So he has risen to the challenge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and there was a
That's
microphone up there. The kids could hear him, and just that connection to their principal was really worth seeing. And
That sounds great.
so Liz, anything? Go ahead.
Do the children, okay, the books that you said that you named, do the children get those books, or that was the book that the book that just the principal read to kick it off?
That's a good question, Ms. Horton. Every child got the book.
Yes.
Every child got the book. So when I would get there, they all had their books, had already put their names on it. They had their own personal book. We ordered enough for every child at 8th grade level to get a copy of the book that they read.
Okay,
and
so
go ahead.
Is that the book? Okay, let me see. Is that the book that they're supposed to read for the summer, or is there another book that they get?
No, that is the one for the summer.
That is the book. Okay.
Yes, over the summer. They can start now, and they have all summer to read it at their pace and do those activities. So the kickoff was explaining all of that to them. And each school, as you said, did something creative about it.
I think that's great. That's great.
Were you, Liz, did you want to add anything to that? I know you were part of that planning.
Yeah, it sounded like it went really great this week, or today rather. And kind of to hold that over for the week, the public library, we're going to be delivering this week. Some of the schools already got them. A brochure that's going to be handed out to all of the students in Jackson, ECP, Highview, and Bailey. They're all going to be receiving a brochure from the public library that has details of all the events and things that we're going to be having. as well as the summer reading program that's going to be at the public library that'll dovetail nicely with the school district's reading. And the reading that the kids do for school, they'll be able to double dip and count towards incentives for the school, for the public library, which will be cool. And they'll be able to keep track of it. They'll also get a bingo card. Not that you could really see this. I'm going to email all of these to Jamal, if you don't mind, so then we can send them out to everybody. This is kind of my wrinkly copy, but it's got all different kinds of challenges that the kids get to accomplish. They could either, and it's just a bingo card, so like some of them are like really fun, like reenact a scene from a book that you read, or tell a joke to someone based on the book you're reading. So the kids all have the option to do those fun challenges, or to read for a certain amount. So for every bingo that they earn on their bingo card, the library is going to be, the public library is also going to be partnering with Caring Cupboard food pantry right across at the health center, right across the street from the library. So they'll be getting donations to the food pantry. So the kids get to do some community service while they're reading too. So I guess that's triple dip. So that's even better.
Yes, very nice.
So we'll all be going out to all of the kids. They'll be getting them this week. And we're also emailing out a video that I'll send to everybody too. It's a really cute video, kind of a commercial for summer reading in general at the schools and at the public library, that one of our interns made. He did a really great job. He's very talented. So that'll be sent out too. And a lot of the school librarians and teachers will be showing that in class. To get the kids excited for summer reading all summer long.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely love everything that you guys have going on, and I encourage parents, aunties, uncles, grandparents, if you're listening to this and you receive the information that Liz just talked about, please share it with your own family, share it with your fellow community members. Let's make the library a place this summer where people can gather, kids can learn. We know that if we keep their brains going over the summer, it will have an impact on what happens when they arrive back at school in September, and be a better way to ease into the school year. So we encourage everybody to share that information.
Thank you. And our big kickoff for the public library is going to be June 23rd, 5:30 to 7:30. It's going to be a big block party in front of the library. We're going to have all kinds of fun challenges and treats and books to give away and prizes and things. All of that will be in support of the school summer reading too. That's June 23rd. That's next Thursday. And we're going to have a giant bubble bus in front of the library. It'll be a lot of fun. So everybody's welcome to come to that too if they'd like.
What time will that?
What time? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
What time is that?
5:30 to 7:30.
And
So,
have you guys shared any materials on that? Something that I can send out to the group?
Absolutely. I'll send that too.
Please. Thank you. Is that everything related to the summer program? Because I guess we kind of blended the two areas on the agenda together. Anything else that you want to share related to that, Liz? And or is there any questions that anybody has? All right, cool. Dr. I, were you finished with your updates, or did you have anything else?
I will yield. I do have a report on where we are with the strategic plan. I wanted to make sure first that I know we have two trustees on the call. This plan was just presented, the update was presented at the board meeting by Mr. McCormick. Is that something you want me to go ahead and share, or you want to? Okay. So, the process up to this point, Mr. McCormick has been working with a subcommittee of about 30 key stakeholders. They've had a series of meetings. They've met and ironed out the first phase of this process that Mr. McCormick explained early on when he started. So the first phase, remember, of the process was to get the community engagement in the stakeholder group. And he did, and he had good representation across the members, I understand. He did at that point stipulate, central office staff nor board members would be part of it at that point. This was really just to get the community engagement and involvement. And there, like I said, there was a cross representation of everyone as on the committee. Were you about to say something, Ms. Horn?
No.
Okay, so they've been just hammering it out. Like I said, 3-4 meetings. So they're at the point where he came back, he presented to the board, and he met with me and my administrative team. Now we're at the phase that's called implement the strategic plan development. So what that first phase did, they identified 5 goals for our primary focus. And the goals are student success, infrastructure, communications, climate and culture, and premier workforce. That has to do with the commitment to recruit and hire and recognize and retain great employees. So those are the 5, he called them strategic goals of focus areas that this committee thought were very important to the development of our strategic plan. So we have that now identified. Then this committee also under each area gave the next phase 3 or 4 bullets to define what that meant. And so I won't read that to you, but I'll just give you a couple of examples. In the area of student success, the description was, we commit to reach, challenge, and prepare every student for success in school and life. That's what the statement was. And then below that, there are 4 sort of subcategories that they fleshed out. Establish a link to the portrait of a graduate. So we're getting now to hear that phrase, portrait of a graduate, and what that will look like when we get finished with the strategic plan. Access early childhood education support. Review IB programs, advanced courses, example ALP, for placement and expansion. And 4, assess SEL impact and support, Mandarin for expansion at the high school. So you see, these are phrases. This is how they defined it. So now when he presented, he went through every one, and the board and the board of trustees had this in front of them. They had the opportunity to give feedback. And what was nice, his whole committee was there with him when he presented. They are a team. And they were there just in case there were questions, and from the board or from anyone in the audience that they could respond to. And from that experience, we did get some other things that the board and other people would love to see included as one of the goals, or either one of the actions under one of the goals. So everything that we came back with, or that we heard, won't necessarily change the focus areas, but we will look to see how those things can fold in one of the focus areas in some of the specific actions. So that's all of phase 1. Now we're at the phase of implementation. So this phase is where the district takes complete ownership of the process, not without Mr. McCormick being there to guide it. He's still on board to do that, but now we get the central office involved. We get the district administrators involved. And we are to take the process now and carry out the necessary steps to transform these focus areas into a framework that provides the strategic performance feedback, such as the goals, the actions, the timelines, who's responsible, what resources that need to be available to support the area. So we will look at this now. There are 5 focus areas, I think. So we will divide and conquer, and we will have subcommittees. Again, that committee structure goes back, but we won't use any of the members on the previous committee. So this will be not subcommittees, more internal, more staff, where we'll take a focus area and start fleshing out of the 4 bullets they mentioned out down there. And again, they did stipulate the 3 bullets that they put under every focus area. They are thoughts that came out of the committee. We're to prioritize that and pick ones that really connect to where we want to go. So we may not use all of them. We are free not to use all of them, but we're to look at it and explore it, come out of there with our priorities, focus areas or specifics under the focus area, and then begin to flesh out how that looks. And that's where we can fold in some of the suggestions that came out at the board meeting, such as, and I'll give you a couple. There were members who said they wanted to see more around student voice. So, students having voice and so forth, buy-in. They, of course, wanted to see more around the language of equity. Equity is included in this, is down in the climate and culture. There are some steps there, 4 or 5 steps there that they talk about respect for all, dignity, and so forth. But they wanted more direct, more clearly defined language around equity so that it stands out. Career readiness came up again. They wanted to see some inclusion of apprenticeships in this work. Special education was not mentioned, if you notice, and that's a need. So, Mr. McCormick even sort of said, they go back and even look at that. They think they maybe didn't put enough emphasis or look at that as well. So it showed up, and so we will focus on that and look to see where we can bring special education in one of those focus areas. I'll give you one more. One is some more about communication, of course. Communication is listed, but the communication through having our kids engage in apprenticeships as well and connecting them to partners and the WISE program. And health and safety came up, and technology. So these were things that were mentioned at the meeting that we need to now at this implementation stage, take all of this, establish small subcommittees to start looking at this to determine our priority areas, our priority actions, not areas, because the areas have been identified. What actions now are we going to prioritize under each area that can fold in a lot of this? So we're looking for heavy level, high leverage strategies that are kind of broad, but include a lot of indicators or a lot where you can flesh out and include, you can flesh out into many specific actions and goals and timelines. So that's the phase we're in right now with the strategic plan. So that's the work we're starting. My committee, he met with us. He explained this, the very same thing he explained to the board, he explained to us. We didn't give him the feedback here. This came from the board meeting, but he was giving us the charge on what's next we must do. And so we will get together. We're beginning to formulate our small committees of persons in that area. For example, we certainly will have on our student success committee, Dr. Macaluso, and some content people who, can flesh out what that means as it connects to early childhood education. But we see where we can fold in special education right in there because it connects to all kids, student success. And so all kids, and that was stressed at the meeting as well, that more emphasis in making sure all is included. They used every, and the committee did push back and say, when they use the terms everywhere we see it, they are referring to all kids. We just wanted to, there were members who said, we just want to make sure that's what that means. So it was good feedback. I took notes, and that's the phase where we are. This is the work we are beginning now to formulate our subcommittees, and they will meet with me and get their charge, and they will go off and do their work, just like this big committee did. They will go off because we all can't be together on all of this. We get nothing done. You divide and conquer. So you give everyone their group assignment, assign a leader. They know what they need to do, and then we will come back and flesh out and give our feedback and agree or disagree before we bring something to the board. Along the way, the board will get reports from me and through Ed McCormick as well about our progress. He was mentioning his being done and ready for this because we want this in place by the beginning of the school year. If we're not ready by September 1, we can't, we'll be in a new year. School year
implementation, right?
Yes, that's right. I was trying to remember how he put that. Say that again, Trustee Warner.
We'll be behind on implementation.
Right. So we're getting going. We have a lot to do. A lot of this will be fleshed out over the summer as well. And then after that phase, when we get the implementation phase, it says governance dashboard development, which he will explain what that means. That's the 4th phase. So we had community engagement, strategic plan development. That's what we have, the goals that's been developed, the first part of it. Now we're in implementation, phase 3, and phase 4 would be the governance dashboard development, which he will, again, guide us through that. What's going to come out of this is we're going to, as a result of this, come back with a portrait of a graduate. And that was something I really instilled upon Mr. McCormick when we met, that everything we do should result in what a student looks like when they leave us. So the strategic plan should feed into assuring that success, that students who leave us have certain skills. And so the portrait of a graduate, if you remember, if you know about that research, says that all kids who graduate from schools should have the 4 C's: communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. Believe it or not, collaboration is a critical skill the workforce, schools, and colleges want in graduates. Even those who are coming out with going into academics, they're going to college and they're going to come out of college and go to the workforce. Those who are not and going right to trade, it doesn't matter. It's for all kids. They should be able to do these 4 things successfully. Those 4 things. So we're going to have, once we flesh this out, we've already identified, we want our graduates to have these 4 things. Once it's finished and we flesh it out, this will be a page on our website that will advertise the worth and the value our graduates receive by the time they leave us as lifelong learners, ready to go into workforce and or college, but having the tools they need to sustain growth and be successful. So it'll be very, very powerful. And we'll get involved with our graphic person to help design. We probably even have students help us design what that web page looks like, you know, for the portrait of a graduate. So down the road a bit, but that will be folded into some of the specific things we will work on.
Yeah, that definitely is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to. Go ahead. I saw your hand first, Edith, and then Katie.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One, is there a document where we can actually look at this? What you just said, Dr. Iverson?
What I have is what he sent me, and this is just the draft introduction where he started and where we are. That's certainly something that's open to everyone. Sure, it's the draft.
Mark it as draft, right?
Yes, I'll mark it as draft, and I can get it. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Is it on the website?
No, not yet. It's not on the website yet. It has to be cleaned up a bit. I wrote on this and get a better copy. But certainly we can get this, because you know what, you're so correct. As we're developing the plan, we need to, add a hyperlink at the top, whatever that link is on that bar, and we can continue to download the process that we're making or the progress we're making along the way.
And then date each draft so that you know which one,
yes.
Right.
So
I'm putting a date now. Go ahead.
How do we want to make that available? Do we want to, I know that there's a strategic plan section on the website now for the strategic plan. Do we perhaps at the top of that page want to put draft next 5-year plan or something like that, so that it's a document the community can take a look at?
Yes, and you know what I will do? I will have just engage with the communication committee at the district level, Jackie Burton, in terms of how to best project that. So I know we have a link there. So this will be, as you add things, this becomes on top and things move down. So this will be the latest document we will add. And then what I will do is send a message home in my weekly update that this is accessible on the website. So that's where that's a good idea.
Okay, and my other question or concern, because I'm not someone who, I don't teach to the test. That's not my thing. I'm all about the whole child, lifelong learning, literacy, the whole thing. However, I'm also realistic. I was concerned that the children could meet the goals in terms of the testing, because that was something that was of concern to me when I went to do, when I was asked by the former superintendent to she asked me if I knew someone who could help with getting the school on Channel 12. And I do have a connection, but I thought to myself, before I give out this name and they come to the Greenburgh schools and do a whole, write-up, I better check the scores. And when I checked the scores, I was shocked. I really was. That at that time, and I hope they've improved, they were below 50%. And I could not understand that because in my mind, unless I'm wrong, and somebody would have to correct me because I've only been living here since 2004, I thought this was, I think of this as a middle-class community, very professional, very little poverty. I'm not going to say there isn't any, but very little. And so people are homeowners and people communicate. They, you know, they can read, they can write, they can, you know, communicate, reading, writing, listening, and speaking. They can do that. And so I was concerned that those scores were below 50%. And I'm like, why? So that's one of the reasons I got involved in, when I say involved, I come to this committee to find that out, to understand. What I did research was only ELA. I didn't do math, science, or any of that stuff. I only did ELA because that's my thing. And so that was of a concern to me because I see the kids. I live in a great neighborhood here in Park Ridge, and you know, homes are selling for $500,000 and all this stuff on my block. And so I'm like, well, what's the problem? You know? So that was of concern to me, you know?
Okay. How
So I
about
just
Ms.
want to know, I know we have, that's why I'm interested in all of the things that you said in terms of the strategic plan to see where that fits in. But understand, I am not about teaching to the test. I'm about that holistic approach so that kids want to learn to read. They want to enjoy books because, as you said earlier, Dr. Iverson, the more you read, the better reader you're going to become. Reading and writing, that's another thing. Maybe I'll talk about that. I have a great idea
like
for that.
this. Yes.
Yeah, they're like that. Exactly. You can't really do this. You got to be like this. Okay. So, but that was my concern initially for my participation, you know, in this committee.
And then looking at the strategic plan and everything that has been outlined thus far, it seems like they're paying very close attention to, you know, the suggestions that you have made, and the suggestions that the rest of the community have made, because they are paying attention. I think not to teaching to the test, because like you know, we don't like that around here either.
We don't like that. Yeah,
and
like that.
and I think that one thing that will tend to make that, to bring that point home, is what I've heard you mention a bunch of times, and Dr. Iverson, what I did bring up in the board meeting, is the idea of us making sure that we are asking students some questions around what they think about this plan, and what's missing and what's not missing, and just making sure that you know, they're the customer, they're the ones who are getting, you know, said education. So we have to make sure that that informs our decision on what strategy, you know, we're gonna go about using it. So it sounds as if that's something that we're going to be looking at, and I look forward to seeing, you know, what if any updates relate to that on the strategic plan. But overall, I'm really happy with you know, with where it's going.
Yeah, well, you know, well taken. Well, your point's well taken, Ms. Horn. I mean, historically, they did connect success to a student's, say, socioeconomic status. The more you were in a two-parent home, and you lived in a neighborhood that, you know, of homes and very few apartment complexes, and the parents were professional, and you know, that research did connect to that. Because of that, students get better exposure, they get better support from home, and consequently they do better in school. But that was back then. You're right. It has shifted. We have students in those environments as well who struggle. And we have students in environments that may not have all of that who are doing well. So that's how the word is, how do we support the diversity, not only in ethnicity and, you know, in terms of we having a rich, diverse population, but we have diversity as well in skill, you know, and in our students. They just aren't all learning the same. And there's nothing, they just, even with those best experiences. I mean, we have kids who come from single homes with a single mom, a single dad, and they're doing just as well. So the research is now saying those things help, but they're not conclusive. What helps that is school systems like Greenburgh Central, having very competent staff, who knows how to close that achievement gap, meaning They know how to address kids' needs. They know what to do when a kid, regardless of their socioeconomic status, is struggling. And the research also supports is what we're working on here, and I won't say much longer. And I shared this with this committee that closing the gap has nothing to do with that necessarily, that when a student is in an environment where they're getting high quality instruction from a high quality teacher, and they're being led and there are high quality principals in those buildings, and their capacity to be able to teach all kids, knowing how to differentiate, knowing how to show through the equity lens when a student needs more what to do, students succeed. They have removed the variable of your socioeconomic. It has no bearing on student achievement. None.
One of the things, and I'm gonna be quiet after this. One of the things that we found that was helpful in our school district was to employ in the kindergarten and first grade, and even the pre-K that we had for a little while, were reading recovery strategies. Not that we had kids in reading recovery, but we utilized those strategies across those 3 grade levels.
Yes.
And that
Reading
was of
recovery
help.
is one of the best. I know about that. One of the best supports programs.
Expensive.
Absolutely.
It's expensive. Yes. It's expensive.
It
but
is.
So what we did to alleviate that part of it, we said, okay, we're just going to use the strategies, and it was very successful for us. So that's just put a bug in your ear.
Well, we have found us in Pinnell. We use level readers. Yeah, we're using all of those programs to help differentiate and give students that extra support, because the lens of equity says that everyone gets good, high quality instruction, and they get that delivery model of, say, literacy every day, everyone. Right. And so, but the equity lens is, but the ones who need more get that and get more. And that's how you meet every child's needs. So you just don't know what a child brings to this experience. And so we have to meet them where they are and be able to move them along. And I think Greenburgh does a pretty good job. Like you said, our literacy scores, Ms. Horn and to others on the call, we closed the gap in literacy. We are now focused, and we're going to sustain that. Our focus is to sustain that. We don't want to lose it. We want to continue to push it, but sustain it. And now we're going to really try to elevate what we've done in literacy and math. And rightly so, we haven't done a lot in math. And so we've identified our goal. So that goal that we have identified, our SMART goal we're going to use next year, that will be part of the strategic plan in that student success section. That will be one of the very specific actions we're going to flesh out how we're going to do that. And we've identified not just our math goal, we've identified the math strategy we're going to be using across the district to build coherence and consistency in practice. The strategy we're using is high yield that can be done at the elementary level, developmentally at that level, but it's high yield enough, meaning it can also be seen, teachers at the high school can do that. And the strategy is called problems, how we're going to teach kids how to attack problem solving. So when they're on these state assessments, they know how, and you can see that applies everywhere. Yes. And then we're going to train our teachers on how to do that and how to teach it. Not that they don't, but how to increase their capacity to teach that and bring in all, not just math, English, social studies, all will learn a piece of this. Like the English will talk about how in problem solving, you pay attention to vocabulary. So it's a district-wide initiative, it's a district-wide focus, and this is what builds a coherence and consistency in practice. And I will tell you, this is what increases student achievement.
Okay.
Ms. McGee?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
You're welcome.
One thing about, I'm going back to the strategic plan, and I know that we can, until it's up on the website, there was, I believe it's the draft you're talking about. It was something Mr. McCormick put together. It was attached as to the agenda for the board meeting. So it was on board docs. So everyone, if you wanted to take a look before it's put up on the website, you can go to the Greenburgh Central School District website to About Us, and then to the Board of Education tab, and then to board docs, and then put in the meeting date last Tuesday. And at the agenda, you will see attachments for a couple of documents. And I think it says strategic plan, and then that's attached there.
For that.
Secondly, I'm so glad that infrastructure is came up as, you know, one of the 5 goals. I'm on the facilities committee and have been for a few years. And I'm just wondering, how did we tie that into the portrait of a graduate? In my head, like, I don't want it to get lost because it wasn't in anything directly what you said about the portrait of a graduate. But what I've seen already, and I just have a 7th grader you know, she's in the building of Woodlands and she's done 3 sports and she's gone to other schools districts to compete, and she has seen the difference and noted the difference in, you know, the facilities of the, you know, whether it's the track in the field somewhere,
right.
the soccer, right? Oh, that's true too. She did NISMA. She went to Mamaroneck High School. You know, that, and there's already been comments about, oh, well, we don't have that, or we don't even have tennis courts that the kids can play on. So, and why shouldn't they, right? But anyway, so maybe it's like pride in your school, or you feel like your district has nurtured you, including or given you the facilities that you need, something in the portrait of a graduate. But I'm wondering if there should be something added or connected to that goal, like, because there's a very, very good reason we have infrastructure on the strategic plan. But am I making sense? Do people understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, you're trying to mechanically add portrait to the portrait of the graduate so that it's somehow connected to the infrastructure, and it's something that gets used to achieve the result, like having a set of tools, right, to do what you need to do, and it does relate to the student, but it's really difficult to figure out how to measure it.
And the portrait of a graduate is sort of, the way it's going to factor into the strategic plan is through the lens of our vision. So if our vision is this, that vision impacts every area, infrastructure, all of the areas that we've identified. The vision is the bigger umbrella where we're going to factor in this portrait of a graduate to realize the goals we're going to have. So, you know, a portrait of a graduate has good facilities, has what they need in terms of being able to participate as sports athletes. So it's to the vision of how we as a district will bring in the portrait of a graduate. That's how Mr. McCormick had explained it. They did do some work. Are you on one of the committees, Ms. McGee? Okay, so they have revised our vision. We have a new vision and we have a new mission. So if you think about vision is where we want to be at that time, 2020, 5 years out, our vision, where we're going. And then we have a mission for how we plan to get there. And one of the ways is through building this lens of a portrait of a graduate, so that if we're going to achieve, and I'll tell you what the vision says, we will be a high performing school district that educates all students to interact intellectually, socially, and emotionally as global citizens. So you hear interact intellectually, socially. That's how, again, that vision is broad enough to include sports, includes theater, debate club, academics. Is broad. Through that vision and lens, and then we said how we're going to do it is we're going to educate our students in a healthy and safe environment in which they will develop a lifelong love of learning in order to successfully navigate a rapidly changing global community. So broad, but that's the mission, how we're going to educate them. So we have a vision, and now we know how we're going to do it. We're going to assure our kids are educated in where it's a safe environment, where it's welcoming. There's that inclusion part of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're going to give them the skills they need, which is the lens of the graduate, to develop and be lifelong lovers of learning and to be successful. So that's the portrait is going through that big lens. And then we flesh out those 4 goals, those 4 focus areas into specific goals and actions and all. We will embed that in every area in terms of how that looks for that graduate in infrastructure, where it means we're going to have probably a goal, perhaps, that we're going to improve our facilities around something. You bring it in that kind of way. It's not a real direct correlation. It's a lot of abstract, but it feeds within all of the goals through the way we form our specific actions. You will see it implemented there. So like I said, the infrastructure are our facilities. So for your daughter who's noticing facilities everywhere else, we'll have goals to address our needs around that can help her realize her goals in sports through our vision of a graduate. It just kind of feeds like that, builds upon each other. Kind of hard to explain. I hope I did a better job, did an okay job.
You did. Excuse me.
Yeah,
She
no, that
goes-
makes sense.
Oh,
And
okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, one thing falls into the other.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
usually how it goes. One thing goes into the other.
You
know?
will
right,
see
and,
a
if-
goal.
and if
Go ahead.
and
Go
if
ahead. I'm
we're
sorry.
always referring back to, I think it was the vision, whichever things said in a healthy and safe environment.
Mhm, mhm.
That's good.
Yeah, and health and safe environment means being able to run and have exposure to facilities that lend itself to that, that aren't broken, that are fixed, something. It could be, so it's global. It's not like a one-to-one correspondence where you say that and you see this. It's how it all connects, where you reach those goals through these measures. That's why it's a strategic plan, very broad, but specific and over time.
Right,
So,
right.
you see, mhm.
Right.
So the last thing, with
Yeah,
that,
no, I just wanted to,
go ahead, Ms. McGee.
no, it does. It makes sense. It makes sense. And I just, I still think like the portrait of a graduate should include something about, something about some connection with the buildings, the environment they've been in.
I'll
A
take notes
success
on
to
that,
help
Ms.
them be
McGee.
successful and feel valued. I think it's about they felt valued at their school.
Okay.
So in other words, if I take my inexpensive but easily cleaned tile floors and I replace them with some indoor-outdoor carpet, and as a result of that, your satisfaction with your classroom environment goes up, is that something that is measurable? I mean, you can be educated just fine on the tile floor, but you might feel better if you had the carpet. On the other hand, if you want to run on the track and you can't wear the cleats because it's the wrong kind of surface, then that's going to impact how well you run on the track and may have a deleterious effect on your ability to get a college scholarship. Okay, so there are two different things going on here. Some of them will be very, very practical, and some of them will be a little more abstract.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it as well. Yeah. But I did take that down, Ms. McGee, as another point. The language around wanting the POG, portrait of a graduate, to connect to the buildings, so kids feel valued at their schools, So, but we know the better kids feel better when they're in an environment that's safe and healthy and has, workable materials and facilities. So, I hear what you're saying there. Did you, Ms. Ross? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be calling.
It's 8 o'clock.
Okay.
This is your meeting. You go in and call people.
Okay, I just wanted to, first of all, I want to say I'm so grateful that we're actually putting an emphasis on math, because I do think that's an area where a lot of times children do feel sometimes insecure, and it's one of those things that sort of piggybacks on one another. So if children feel a little nervous about math in the beginning, it becomes harder as they get older. I just wanted to stress, because I also, as an educator, I find that the children who do the best in math are, as you said, they're critical thinkers. And we do have some wonderful programs that we've had pre-COVID, like the chess program, a lot of STEM, things like that. And I mean, they haven't really come back yet because of the fact that we're just sort of getting out of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But those are things I just want to make sure as we do come up with plans, we don't sort of forget about some of the wonderful plans we had in the past. Because I thought the chess program, it started in kindergarten or first grade, I think it was. That was amazing. And there were children actually competing with other children. And some of them were actually winning and beating children that played in Scarsdale and played in, that all sort of goes hand in hand with that critical thinking piece, with that, you know, the ability to do well in math, all of that. So I just hope that as we're continuing, I think we used to also have like STEM weeks where we would spend a lot of time on that. I feel like
Coding
that's,
week, right?
yes, those type of things. I just want to make sure we could bring back when we.
Now robots, all of that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Kelly. We appreciate it. Dr. Iverson, did you have anything else in terms of updates?
I do have, yes. So I want to make sure the committee knows, because this is community engagement that I'm going, my goal is to, like you said, Ms. Ross, we are now even living with COVID. We have learned to live with it. COVID's still here, but we're living with it. And we're continuing to find ways to sustain and live with it. So one of my personal goals is next year I've really worked hard this year, and I can always work harder on improving the communication with the community, my communication with the community. Because, I did this weekly message and we did a list of things, but I'm going to be more visible. And it starts now. And so what I've begun to partner with the local churches and met with the NAACP around how we can, with the NAACP, just stay with that, how we can connect around bringing in and diversifying our hiring pool to be more inclusive of the population we serve. Kids we know learn. Kids identify when they can identify with an adult in front of them of their ethnicity and that looks like them. Let's just put it plain. It sets, if nothing else, back to the strategic plan, that internal goal that I can be like that. I want to be like that. So if I'm a child who's disruptive a little bit in class, but I see someone that looks like me, is teaching and dresses professionally, you don't know the impact that stuff has on kids. I tell the people, my administrators and the custodians, every encounter you have with the child should be something where you have an impact on them. All of them are important. So we need to get and diversify that. So I'm meeting with the NAACP to make sure we are able to publicize and post and for positions. So we want that representation there. Also, the local church, the churches, the religious leaders, that's where all our kids go on a weekend. That's where they go. They're there like they're in school. So we need to partner better with them. And we've already, for the sake of this committee, I want to let you know, I already had a meeting with them on the 8th of June where we were talking about how we can support each other around safety and security. And so the police department was there, I was there, and we had several religious leaders there. And it was really just a conversation. We shared what we do around our safety plan. We have a district safety plan, and every school has a school safety plan. We're in the middle of revamping those now. We went through our procedures on the hills of Uvalde for when we need to go to lockdown. You know these terms, Miss Ross and Miss Horn, and I'm not excluding the others on the call. I know you do too. I know Ms. Ross was a teacher. I know Ms. Ross is one, and you probably had to take your class, lock the door, go to a corner of the room, pull the shades down, and just protect them and hug them and keep them as safe as possible until your principal or someone came and said it's okay to get up. So we talked about that. The churches want to be able to say to their congregations what's happening in the schools. So what better way to do that is to begin meeting. So we're beginning to do that. We're hoping to do more of that to build that partnership. We're not an island. No one is. If you think you are, then shame on you. We need each other in this work. And so they're about going to do that. And lastly, the end of the year review. So remember you and I talked about this T and the terms that was attached. I said to you as a group, this is my group where I'm a liaison. I don't think I'm gonna do a T. I mean, I'm gonna be very transparent with you. I'm kind of wanting to make my own mark and my own legacy for what I stand for and what I like to do. And so, I said, we'll do something, and I'm thinking I will do more of this. So I did do a small little end of the year review. This PowerPoint is on the website and you can go see it. it just kind of shows the accomplishments this year in focus areas. It shows like what we learned, what we accomplished, and our next steps. I'm looking to do another one, and I'm going to talk, since it's our last meeting, Mr. Thomas. I just left that meeting today and said, you know what, we need to do one in the evening where any and everybody who wants to come can come. So I'm
Instead of
looking
8:30
for
in the morning. Yes.
Yeah, but you know, so this was small scale, but you know, the intent was just that. But you know, I'm really going to try to do it again. What are you in the afternoon, in the evening, couple of hours? I really want this community to know the work that's happening behind the scenes, because see, most people look for the results. Did they do this? But to get there is what you need to know, the accomplishments, those small steps that need to be in place to make those big changes. You know, no one scores or wins the Super Bowl just by throwing that football only. They have a lot of skill they must get, practice, and do those small things that build that skill set so that when they get to that game, they're ready and they can win. It's an analogy. We are going to the finish line. We're trying to cross that Super Bowl. But to get there, we have some small things we're working on now. So that's the theme for now and the next year, small steps to big changes. That's what we're doing. And so today was sharing some of those things that we've done. And I will look to send the date out. I'll talk to you, Mr. Thomas, around a 2-hour window where we can, you know, I'm hoping we can do it in person in the auditorium at Woodlands. I would love to.
Is that something that you're interested in doing prior to the end of the year, or something that you're doing?
I'm trying to see if I can squeeze it in before the end of the year. Yes. I mean, that's what I wanted to open up to this group. I don't know if it's summer, do you lose something with that if you wait?
David, you look like you want to say something.
That's the key. We need to get the word out. Now, how did we invite people to that?
They got invitations.
How many people were on the list?
Everyone, 50 people or so.
Okay, so if we had 200 people on the list instead of 50 people on the list, then with the same rate of response, we might get some more people in.
Well, what I would do is not with invitations then for opening it up that broadly, because I understand that's how it was done in the past. We would just advertise it, have it on a website, and all come one, come all, sort of like that. Mm-hmm. But you're right. The key when I met with the team today is getting it out, get the word out, and plenty of time. And just finding the time. I mean, we have committee meetings this week. I looked at this week, and I know there are a couple of committee meetings this week in addition to this. And we're out on Monday. Then Tuesday, stay tuned. I do think it's worth you hearing and seeing where we are, because what we've done feeds right into this strategic plan as we begin to flesh out the specifics. And so it's good stuff happening. I had a lot to say. I hope I didn't take too much time, but know that we are on track and we are busy working to get ready for next year.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson. We definitely can circle back over the next day or two to come up with whether or not this is something we can get done. I'm certainly all for it. I guess all of this kind of links us right into the next portion of our agenda, where I kind of want to connect with everybody around thoughts from folks on what, if any, highlights that they feel like we had as a committee over the course of the last year. Prep ourselves for what it's going to look like to make the committee next year, kind of grow and develop in our charge and charter, and then try to decide on what dates we're going to be meeting next year. We got kind of access. I'm not going to share this fully out, but we got access to the draft calendar. And so, being able to take a look at that and make decisions on when we will meet. So let's start with, potential highlights, lowlights, what I mean? Anything, from the folks here on the committee. Dave, maybe you might even start, just because you've watched you've been a part of this for a long time. Are there things that where we took some steps forward, things where we took some steps back. Maybe just frame for us your thoughts on this school year and engage in the community communication.
So if I look at our charges, then there's like 3 or 4 bullets worth of stuff, right? So the first one is make recommendations for district-wide communications policy with procedures. It turned out to be a many-headed hydra, so we now have a list of policies that are in the queue for the board to review, and the administration is going through them, and that will eventually come out the other end. So we started that process. It's now out of our hands because it's a board-wide thing, but we started it. We told them what we wanted to look at. So that's a check. It's not a check plus, but it's a check. The second bullet, make recommendations for ways to increase partnerships and communications with PTAs, local business organizations, civic associations, and municipalities. That covers a lot of territory. I would anecdotally talk about one thing I'd called stumbling towards Tesla. Okay, so basically we had one of the areas that we thought would be a really wonderful thing for us to do was to interact with some of the local businesses, and I believe a little, and we tried to figure out at one end, what are our technology offerings, because there are tech businesses out there, and I think what happened there was we actually, that got formed out to the community, the education committee, and the education committee came back and gave us an overview of the technology related programs in the district. So if you go back and look at one of the spring meetings of the education committee, you'll see an overview of okay, so we have the Society for Black Engineers Junior, and we have all, we have the science programs, we have the IB program, all that stuff. Then I believe it was you, Jamal, who made an attempt at contacting Tesla and nothing came back. However, fortunately, we have this International Baccalaureate program all the way from kindergarten up through 12th grade. And it so happened that a little 6th grade girl who was working on an IB unit on technology and sustainability talked to the librarian and said, it'd be really great if we could see some of those electric cars. And then the librarian goes over to the local Tesla dealer, which is right next to RJ Bailey, and says, hey, could we see some of those cars? And then they end up with 2 cars in the parking lot. A couple of guys come and they lecture to all the 6th graders, because Tesla's not just trying to sell you their electric cars. They're trying to sell you power supplies that you put on your roof, right? So you get solar power and charge your electric car that way, and sell it to you as a whole system. And so it feeds into the whole environmentalism thing of reducing your carbon footprint and all of this stuff and all the technology, and you get to see it as hands-on. And those kids, as the cost of Tesla cars comes down and they get older, the two shall meet, and you've got a sort of evolution towards a sustainable future. And
Right.
There it is. And so this thing that we were struggling to have happened, and I believe we showed up and took a bunch of pictures, and you have that to share with us?
We did not. I shared it in an email. I don't. Yeah.
Okay, so at some point in the future, you can post it and send us an email to share it with us, correct?
So I did share it in an email already, but I was just trying to see whether I had it.
Okay, good.
But I didn't know that first part of the story, though, that it was a student that encouraged the librarian. I back to the idea, student voice. I love the fact that librarian was responsive to the student's request, and it's probably too late now, but she'll get a Nettie Jackson
maybe so
nomination next year. So yes,
there's one example in which we actually got something done regarding that bullet, and there are lots and lots of other opportunities for us to expand upon that with different partnerships and make things better. And I'm sure some other people in this group can come up with some anecdotes on that. Anybody want to chime in at this point, or should I go on to the next bullet?
I think that's a great thing, because to me, that's authentic learning. It's real world experiences using technology, math, science. That's what, in my mind, we should be encouraging kids to do. That's how I think we should be teaching, really. But there's that thing called New York State and all that other stuff.
As much hands-on as you can get.
That's what I think is great.
Good.
And more
So,
project-based.
yes.
Yes, that's it.
That's
To me,
it.
there's no
All
other,
wise.
to me, there's no other way.
Yeah.
So
And
we
you
have
know-
this thing called the Woodlands Individualized Senior Experience that we've had for 40 years at our high school. In the last semester of your senior year, we don't cut up your food for you anymore. We make you take initiative. You come up with your own idea for a project. We give you a mentor so that you have support. You go through and keep a journal while you either go into some kind of internship program or some extended research program. And then at the end, you keep a journal to note your progress. At the end, you have a final presentation, and a panel judges you on how well you did that and achieved all of the goals and objectives of the program. And then you've gone out there and done something above and beyond the traditional academics by the time you leave high school. And the same sort of thing is to a certain extent being placed into the CAS portion of the International Baccalaureate program. So now we have more than one way to do it. And so we're doing that more and more at different levels. And IB has methods of doing that at earlier grades as well. So that's
You said CIS, David?
CAS.
CAS.
Dave, it's funny that you brought that up because my son is a 6th grader and he was telling me about the IB projects that they're working on.
7th, 8th grade. Yeah.
And I'm actually quite impressed. And that was the first thing I thought about. It reminded me of when I was in WISE, because it seems like, and this is coming from a 6th grader, so I don't have all the details. That's the only thing I would critique about it, is I wish I would have found out more. Like, I would love to hear more about the process, because it sounds as if like the children were able to create their own projects. And he told me, I think every Friday, or they have like a scheduled time where the children are actually working in their groups to come up with the project. Because I really was intrigued by this and I wanted to see how I could incorporate it in my own classroom. And he was saying that during that time, it's like all the teachers, from my understanding, again, this is coming from him, a couple of teachers sort of are involved with it. Like, I think he's doing a project on hacking and they're coming up with a whole presentation, and they're speaking to Mr. McGlee about using the television and this whole thing to present their information. And it seems like there's several projects that the kids are currently working on. I don't know if they're planning on having a showcase of some sort where we'll be able to see some of the outcomes of some of these projects, but they're definitely working on some great projects from my understanding from him.
And it gets bigger at the middle school. So there's more of that. I've seen a few examples of some student projects along that line. And then the CAS is actually extended. I think it can be like 2 years that you can spend working on a particular area. And WISE, of course, is a 1 semester long thing. So we have multiple avenues at getting at this thing. So yes, that is one of the progressive things that we do.
I would like
thank you
for
so
us
much for
to be able
sharing
to
that, Kelly.
share that, though. I think that a lot of parents don't realize that's happening. Like, I didn't even know that was happening until, honestly, I saw on the Twitter feed, because my son doesn't necessarily come home and tell me everything. And I'm like, Tesla was at the school, and that's what sort of engaged that conversation about these IB projects. And I know quite a few other parents that didn't really realize that they were working on
all of the things that we have going on. Yep.
Right.
And the fact that your son came home to tell you about it just means that it's something that he was excited about. And so if he's excited about it, then we should be excited about it. And we're the community engagement and communication committee. So we've talked a little bit about improving on our communication strategies, and we had some ideas earlier on in the year. Dr. Iverson obviously just got here. There'll be some things that we communicate around how we operationalize come next year. Things like potentially on the screens in the schools, having like the pictures and videos and things to that effect from an event like this, so that whether it's parents coming in or clips that arrive on YouTube that relate to an event like this, people do know that we here in Greenburgh School District are not just doing everything in the classroom every day. That there's other stuff going on as well.
Could we invite Catherine Ador in as a guest speaker, and maybe have a teacher and a couple of kids say a couple of words at a future meeting like next fall? Okay.
Of course. course, definitely. Perhaps that might, it may make sense to even, look at having her at the first meeting, and or this is something else, that goes into the meeting schedule that we're going to talk about. We've talked about, what a back to school event would look like. Perhaps that's, it's kind of a community. It is a community engagement event. So perhaps as we look at either the late August or early September doing something back to school, we can have something live where Catherine and or other folks are there to share all information that they have on how we might best serve as kind of community advocates all year long, and how we can help support them in their roles in that regard.
Very good. Okay, it's late. Next bullet. Make recommendations for a plan to implement community-wide survey by thought exchange to gather information regarding our district to include but not limited to our students' educational experience, including its effectiveness and the effectiveness of our current communication efforts for student, faculty, staff, and the needs of the district. Well, now I can say that part of a little portion of that was taken care of by your entry plan, okay? And so the question is, I don't know that the community can really, the CEC can really claim credit for your entry plan, but you did go out and do the equivalent of what you get out of Thought Exchange by going and surveying lots and lots of community groups, including students. So I think there's some progress there, and some of the things that you communicated at your year-end review included all of that. So if I want to claim that the year-end review is a CEC function, the way the T used to be a CEC function, and I do, then we've got some progress there. Although there are things that still need to be done. And then finally, make recommendations to continue to build community trust and strengthen perception of our school district. And that's what we were talking about, and that's showcasing what we've got. So I think there's a lot more work to be done there. What are people's suggestions on fulfilling this last bullet? What do you think?
I personally love that spotlight we have going on right now. Every Saturday it gets posted. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. And I think that's something I hope we continue throughout next year. I look forward to reading it. I love that it gives you such a great background of the student and their journey to where they are right now. I think that's great.
And I've heard suggestions that we expand it beyond just the 18-year-olds. Just the high school. Yeah.
We instituted it pretty late. It was another strategy. We wanted to start storytelling, telling stories about our students and what they're doing well. And, so we, as it came about as a strategy, we said, let's just start, and the seniors leaving, let's have a senior spotlighted every week. And so, but yes, we do plan to roll that into next year and do more of that at all the levels.
Okay. Jessica?
Everybody. I would say, Dr. Iverson, you picked up very quickly with the need for more ongoing communication, and the weekly blasts from you have been very informative, and they balance things about the students, what's going on in the schools, and then key information we need to know this year. So it's provided that resource to get more information out. I don't know how that can go further into the community also. And also I feel like the Facebook page has been much more active lately. Beginning of the year, there wasn't a whole lot of presence, I felt, and remembering, but lately I've been seeing some really good things. And now I'm like, oh, my son's going to Highview next year, and I'm really excited when he gets to do the strings and the orchestra. And so it's getting me excited. And it's like also feeling a little bit of what this meeting used to do when David, you present us all the pictures and we go through everything. Mm-hmm. The Facebook page can do that and can do it for a larger community and more in depth. So I appreciate those two communication mechanisms, but again, thinking, how do we make it consistent for everybody, which may mean how do we tap into like other markets in the community to make sure everybody's able to access it as much as, those as we like?
I've said this before, that the community, based upon your age, you have a home technology that you're most comfortable with. So for example, we've got a problem right now where they're still waiting on parts at the town, so the cable channels aren't broadcasting. So people in the older demographic who are like sort of pre-Facebook are not getting all of that stuff, because where they would get it is off the cable TV, because they watch TV. Okay, so you need to figure out what your message is and adapt it to all the different, so if I want a text message that points me to something that I could look at, because I'm from the text message or DM or whatever generation, then that needs to be there. If I'm from the Facebook generation, that's great. Then I go in and look at those particular social websites. If I'm from the email generation, well, you can point me from an email to that stuff. If I'm someone who can, I can handle a phone blast, then you do what you can with that, although it's suited only to certain forms of communication. And if I'm an old print media person, then you make sure that the newsletter gets to my house. Okay, so we got to do it all, and we have a lot of niche markets that we have to appeal to.
Yeah, it would be interesting to.
I'm sorry.
Ahead, Dr.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Trustee Thomas. Go right ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So, Ms. Muldoon, you did hit it on the head. That is our challenge. We tried to this year to make a concerted effort to communicate with the community, around urgent matters, of course, that we had to, COVID and other things, safety and so forth. But more too, when I meet with the team, I say, okay, that's what we have to do. We got to make sure we keep the community abreast about that. But how do we do a better job of sharing with the parents and giving them understanding of the education students are getting? Because that's what we do. That's what we're there, that their children are experiencing, the type of extracurricular activities, how we're supporting SEL. So that's how that spotlight came out of that. And so we are beginning to brand. We talked about how do we brand this district next year. So, through graphic design, through our website, by more of that, what you just mentioned, partnering so that other organizations, our partners, can get the word out for us as well. So we had a beginning meeting with religious leaders. I've shared that a little earlier. Today, I talked to a couple of parents who talked about having community organizations send me information about what's going on in their respective organizations. It can become part of my message, just as I share dates that the PTA has for activities. We're looking into that. And so I think that's the next piece of how we spread out, because right now we're doing the Greenburgh weekly message. We're doing the quarterly print newsletter. We're even going to do a summer newsletter. We met on that today. We're trying to really improve our experience with that district website, with the pop-up features and enhancing with the news section. Ongoing use of, the district TV studio with Steve and him being visible and about with pictures. We're trying to really improve that turnaround time to respond to parents' emails, to make sure we do not ignore emails, that we acknowledge receipt of an email, even if we don't have an answer. But we heard you, we got it. We're going to get back on to that. And I had a couple of parents this week that I didn't have the answer, but if I can't get to them, Ivy knows it says interim, she has your email, she's going to get to you by the end of the day. Something to say it's coming. We make sure we put things in Spanish. I hope you've noticed that. And and this year we added those budget meetings. I know you did them historically, but there was another level of we've had 3 or 4 presentations at board meetings, because that process starts in February. But how do we open it up for those who can't, like you said, Trustee Warner, can't get to the meeting, didn't watch it, maybe missed it. How do we do? So we're going to do more of that as well. So I love hearing these suggestions, because this is where the meat and the crunch of the work is, and we are trying to do better with that. So I'm open to your ideas and how we can do that. How do we, and maybe not in this meeting, this could be the next one, but yeah, how do we get others, like Paul Feiner, if I call him with his feed for Facebook, he'll get things out on his page to all the connections he has. So I know he can do that. how do we do that with everyone else?
Right. Yeah, that is something that we definitely need to focus in on. I think part of it can be, you know, next year, as not as opposed to, but in addition to, making some of our meetings more almost action oriented, where we, you know, utilize everybody. Like while we're here to, you know, say, you know, hey Jessica, why don't you email, you know, Paul Finer, or, and maybe it's not Paul Finer for you, but maybe there are specific action items that ultimately are required for after the meeting, but, you know, where we have almost working sessions, you know, for lack of a better term, where the whole entire committee is coming together to say, all right, you're going to take on this challenge, you're going to take on this task, you're going to take on this, you're going to take on that, and then we kind of laser focus in on getting things done, because you know, some of this can, you know, certainly falls back on me. I you know, I'm trying to juggle entrepreneurship and new board person and things like that, and there's things that I you know, it sounds so good to me, like, okay, I can get to that, and then so it's like I can't get to it. So being able to do that collectively, I think, is going to help a lot. Go ahead, Edith.
My question is, Jamal, at some point, you took a list of the various community organizations in the community.
Mm-hmm.
The list. How do you, or how does the district contact those organizations? Because I know mine is on there. And what I do here in Park Ridge, which we're a very tiny community, I'm the person who does the newsletter. And every month I make sure that the school district's Board of Education meeting is posted, as well as this committee is posted. So what I'm trying to ask, what I'm asking is, how do you connect with those other organizations, homeowner organizations?
Yeah,
I have not done go ahead, David.
The old way of doing it was that we had about 200 people on an email distribution list, and we wrote up the minutes for whatever meeting we just had, and we posted those, said, hey, you want to review these minutes? And of course, it had in it lists of activities that both had happened recently and that were still to come. And so, if you wanted some source material to pull for your particular newsletter, there it was. I think we haven't been doing that in the last couple of years. I think that got interrupted before Jamal ever got here, and maybe I mean, that's one way of reinstituting it, but it's like targeted towards email folk. I don't know if are people able to lift things off Facebook, or how does that work if you're a little more of the present than I am?
Well, I can only tell you what I do in my newsletter. And my newsletter has that. There's a section that says Greenburgh Central School District, and it has the date of the Board of Education meeting, because I look it up on the website. And it also has the date for this meeting, and it has the website that the people can go to for further information. So that's always there. And just as an aside, Dr. Iverson, I also put in a section for reading and crafts.
So, I mean, it may be as simple as, not necessarily easy, but as simple as, you know, making sure that there's somebody in charge of each of those community groups represented on the list that I send out. Like when I send out emails, and then just getting, you know, a little bit more proficient, maybe making sure that there's a bi-weekly email that goes out, and having some specific cadence around, you know, one is going to have the agenda, one's going to have the minutes, you know, and maybe asking people what's the information that they are most interested in, and making sure that in one of those two messages per month, it is, you know, what the different groups are looking for is available there. So thank you for.
This is for the June, and you'll see it right here. Here's your, I don't know. There's your,
Yep,
that's your.
We see it.
Right.
Very nice.
Thank you. So yeah, putting something in place so that the other community groups can do the same exact thing that you're doing there, and you know, some of this stuff is it's going to happen piecemeal. Like, you know, I mean, that one suggestion may be 1 month, and then the following month we ramp it up and do something additional to make it so that more people get a more clear picture of what's going on in the district and how they can help to better connect with the overall community. Does anybody else have anything that they wanted to, kind of touch base on around, what's going on over the course of this year? High, low, anything that we want to, be mindful of going into the summer as we, start the preparations for what, next year's committee will look like.
I do like the idea that this committee is open to ideas and that, you're listening to the community. I think that's a great thing. And I hope that will continue. I think that's very good that the superintendent, Dr. Iverson, that you're here to listen to us. I think that's a great thing.
Thank you. Jessica, let me say this real quick, and then maybe you guys can incorporate this into your answer. That we have noted that we have a choice going into next year, whether we are going to continue to meet on Zoom or whether we are going to meet in person. And I didn't want to just make an executive decision. I kind of wanted to, hear from you guys on what your preferences are in that regard as well. Go ahead, Jessica, sorry.
Sam had her hand up first.
Okay, go ahead, Sam.
Actually, you did. Go ahead.
Somebody, go ahead.
I usually like to pick up on your ideas. I think I had a little trouble with the calendar this year. I'm going to be honest. I almost felt like it was like a last minute reminder. And I know the calendar is out there on the district website and I have responsibility to check there, but with all the different meetings going on, kind of getting that information out there and then also publicizing it bigger to get more people in. So that way I would probably say in person, if we can, would be nice because it then opens it up. You don't have to there's some benefit of just being able to hop down on a computer and jump in, and it helps with some of the evening stuff, but there's also something nice about being in person and kind of opening up a space for other people to come visit. So I know logistics are a little bit harder to do, but I would say that in person, and then kind of if it's like a week or 2 weeks out, a reminder goes to that bigger list of like, hey, this is a meeting, this is where it's going to be, to just kind of keep it on top of people's mind about that.
I wouldn't mind a hybrid.
Go ahead, Samantha.
Yeah, I would build on that. I mean, I did part of my end of year wrap up on my own work was to go back through and move reminder emails back a couple weeks on each item moving forward so that I give myself a little more time to find necessary information and get it out. I think that's true. And I found the same thing with this committee and some of the other board meetings, but that I also feel like I'm always playing catch up. So part of that is on me, I'm sure. I would second meeting in person. I do see a benefit. I think more people are able to join remotely, but the quality of the conversations is a little bit higher. And I do think maybe I'm gonna hope that we're in a place where we need community, especially this committee needs to build community. We need to get more people in a room to a school. I think we need to come together. And to that end, this is a little bit out of the box, but I was thinking about it while you were speaking, and I was thinking about the idea that this very small group right here doesn't need more to do. We're all very busy, but we do need more people to activate. So in our organization, our civic organization, and with the Heart Still Neighbors organization, and I wear the hat of the education committee chair only because I'm already on the education committees. So I report to the Heart Still Neighbors what we're working on, where to find the information, and then they follow that lead to put their newsletter together. I love that Ms. Horn is pulling together information, and I can see ways that if we as a committee or if the district had that email blast to the organizations that had it already formatted, and whoever is drawing up whatever outreach, whether it's online or newsletter or however, you just copy and paste the format. So for Hartsdale Neighbors, once we have a write-up, and I don't do the write-up, but I vet it and I add the links, I do the initial and then someone makes it look better and then we add links, that gets sent by email, but it also gets copied and pasted into social and then reshared into a couple of strategic places, but we only write it once. If someone else were writing it once and it had the right information in it, either from this committee or from the district, to write it once and send it out so that the civic organizations could copy and paste it wherever they needed it and it had the right information in it, I think that would be helpful. But I'm also mindful that that gives this small group more to do and we don't need it. So I'm thinking that we need to activate the people who show up to some meetings. Like I can think of 5 PTA members off the top of my head who are active in their civic organizations. We should invite them to come to this meeting because they are a bridge, right? We need to start pinning the community members who are those natural bridges to different parts of these communities. Who do we know that goes to this church and also shows up to these meetings and is on the PTA? Can we invite them? Can we ask them to come? Because those are the people who are going to bridge those organizations naturally and create a lot less work for us. And then my other thought, and this is in the same vein of creating work for ourselves, is that someone from this committee or one of these other board committees should make it a point to go to each district event as we're opening up in person. And the reason that I say that is because every time I show up somewhere, there's conversation about the school. And because I'm a little more informed, I tend to be able to roll whatever conversation is coming up into the facts and the actual experiences and the numbers as we're seeing them and the information I know. I think it's been useful for me for the last few in-person events to be able to say, I hear what you're saying, and I know that person over there can answer your question. And whether it's a social event or even the board elections when people were walking through the parking lot, to be able to say, I hear you, and that person knows more, and make those connections has been huge. So even if it's just a social event, if we know who's going among us and make sure one of us is around to enjoy the event and also build those relationships, I think that's important, not to give ourselves more to do, but to be mindful of the community coming together and being a part of that.
Thank you so much. I definitely, I'm noting the votes here. We'll probably put together some type of form or something to send to the broader list so that we can make a decision on that for early in the year. Kelly?
I was going to say, to your point, Sam, I do think there's a benefit to being in person, but I also think there's a strong benefit with the hybrid. And I personally think there should be I agree when Edith said a hybrid version. I think in the beginning of the year, you tend to get a lot of people to want to come out in person. I think as it starts getting colder, I think a lot of times it's hard to get out in person. I think the beauty of COVID is that we were introduced to things that I don't think all of it we need to get rid of. I mean, I think that the Zoom and being able to meet virtually has been a great thing, and it does increase engagement. And I think we are a community engagement committee. So I think that might be a way of getting some other members to come forth. So I personally would think maybe start off maybe with an in-person, have some virtual ones in the middle of the year as it starts getting cooler out and people are kind of hibernating in their house anyway. And it's kind of harder to get out. Also, that sort of helps us when it comes to inclement weather. It doesn't mean we have to change dates because, there's a chance of snow or a chance of ice or something like that. If we don't have to worry about the weather as much in the winter time if we have it set up as a hybrid type of meeting. And then in the spring, maybe come back to having some in-person meetings. That's my thought.
I agree with Kelly. I know for myself, because now I'm a little bit more challenged than I was in the past in terms of getting around. So I do prefer the Zoom. However, I can understand that the idea of being in person is a good one, but I know it would be really challenging for me in the wintertime. I really don't go out in the wintertime because I am challenged. And so this works perfectly for me. I can make an effort in the fall and in the spring, but those winter months, no. Being honest and upfront about that.
So we'll definitely take.
I would prefer a hybrid model and do my best to make the effort in the fall and in the springtime.
Yeah, we'll definitely take everybody's thoughts into consideration. Perhaps it'll be in person, Zoom, in person, Zoom, or Kelly's suggestion where, we do in person in September and then, and maybe September and October, and then, winter months will be Zoom, and then springtime come back around. So, like I said, to expect some type of, form over the course of the next week to kind of come up with what next year is going to look like. So just from a timing perspective on when we will hold meetings, I think we've tried to do first Mondays of the month. That doesn't work every month. I know that I think that there's a PTA event. Like when I went through the sample district calendar, there are some times where there's a PTA event on those weeks where it falls in the same where it falls on the same night. Perhaps on those we can acquiesce to the PTA and move to Wednesdays there. Or I know that over the course of the past years, we've tried to say that we were going to have a Saturday meeting once or twice to give more people an opportunity to connect. So what's everybody's thought? One, on making first Monday of the month kind of that's the staple. In the event that it clashes with the PTA or some other event, we then look to do that same Wednesday, hoping that it won't clash with other committees, and then making sure that next year we have at least one, perhaps two Saturday meetings at some point as well.
I think that's good. I think that I really liked when we moved around to different schools and sometimes varied the venue. That at least gave us an in to see what the school building looked like, and so I think moving around in both place and yes, having monthly meetings is probably a good idea. So yes, I would favor that.
Okay, so I'm looking at the mock calendar right now, and as I look at it, September 12th looks like that it would be a good date. There's modified sports does begin. Fall mandatory student athlete parent coaches meeting. So again, something like that is that reason enough not to have the meeting, or I guess some of our, like, is anybody who's tended towards the meetings have student athletes that they would need to be at that mandatory meeting? Like, how do you guys, what do you guys think about that?
Dr. Iverson said something, but
it works for me. I am available. It depends on the parents and who have students in some of those programs you mentioned, Mr. Thomas. So I don't know, but Mondays are always better for me. I like Mondays because before the board, if there's a Tuesday, there's a meeting and it just gets busier. So I will yield to what the group is thinking.
Okay.
We're all very generous this evening. We had a couple votes we had to deal with on the PTA at Highview, and those were important. It was a bit of an all hands on deck. So Jessica and I were both late.
Mm-hmm.
You were very generous to let us slide right in here. And
But of course,
this was an example of a night where we had a direct conflict, but we made it work. So I do think it's doable when it has to be doable.
All right, so I think we're going to look at the 12th of September as a date. In October, the 3rd. Oh no, that's the Board of Education has a work session on the 3rd. On the 10th, Columbus Day, the school is closed. It looks like there's a bunch of things going on.
17th
Actually,
and
the
24th.
two, what if 17th, Woodlands High School Scholarship Fund meeting and PTA Council meeting.
And 24th?
24th of October would work. The only thing with that is just that it pushes us. It makes it so then it doesn't make sense to have a meeting on the 24th and then on the 7th. You know what I mean?
You want Wednesday the 12th?
Wednesday the 12th, ECP parent workshop. I think that probably would be okay to do it on that same day.
Okay. 10.
So David, you're writing this down. So if you could send it to me, I'm going to just keep looking through the calendar. So November 7th, I believe would work. There's literally nothing on right now. December 5th will probably work. There is ECP parent teacher conferences that night, but again, I'm not sure whether anybody is, who our ECP parents are that are on the committee. So David, what do you think of December 5th?
I think earlier in December is better than later in December because we ended up canceling our previous one when we got too close to the break. So yeah.
The 12th would work also. There's nothing in the evening on the 12th.
I like the 5th better.
Okay, so let's do it. January is one of those. There's a PTA council meeting on the 9th. We have a work session on the 10th. There's a PTSA meeting, principal workshop on the 7th, so maybe that week is not particularly good.
How about the 18th?
18th, yep. January 18th. Or do we want to look at that as our Saturday meeting? I think that's what we did this year. No. So maybe do it on the 14th, so Saturday the 14th, or 21st.
Okay, 14th.
14th. Let's do it.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Did I hear you mention November?
November. What did we say on November?
November 7th.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
So we said 14th, and then February. I want to say 13th because that's right about a month away.
Mm-hmm.
March 6th. It looks like this. Because the 11th is SAT date and 18th is the spring musical. That's 5 p.m. Actually, March, why don't we do like our Saturday, the Saturday in March on the 18th?
Wait, did you say there was a musical?
That's at 5 p.m. though, so we would be doing, I guess, like 11 to 1 or something like that.
Oh, I see. You want to do it 11 a.m. on the 18th. Okay.
So what's
Correct.
January and February again? I missed that. So it's March 18th.
11 a.m. Okay.
April, we have a PTSA council meeting on the 10th. And a Woodland Scholarship Fund meeting on the 17th. Got a board meeting on the 11th. So perhaps we'll do the 12th in April.
Mm-hmm.
Well, assuming all these non-Saturday meetings are at 7 and all of the Saturday meetings are at 11 a.m.
Yes.
Okay.
May is looking pretty packed. PTA meeting on the 1st. Woodlands Middle Spring Concert is on the 8th.
17th?
What's HES is,
Highview Elementary School.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, I guess we don't have a choice. That'll work on the 17th. And then we have June. I think June, doing it earlier is better in June, I believe, as well. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
5th to the 12th.
You know what? Let's do June. Let's make June a Saturday, and we will do an in-person. We'll make sure that June Saturday is in person, and whether it's pizza or something, just thank you to everybody, thank you to the committee. We'll get together on that day. Oh wow, I didn't realize how dark it was getting over here while I was looking at the.
Yes, you're trying to disappear there. But you want the 10th? You want the?
I think my headset's gonna die. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, they just died. I said we were talking about June.
Mhm.
So June 17th or 10th? Yeah, 10th would probably be better.
Okay. Good. And you're going to rotate through the schools in
We
terms of
will-
location?
Yes, and you're asking this because we want to be able to send
Okay.
this information in to actually end up on the calendar.
Correct.
Okay, but how do we do that without talking to the principals ahead of time to make sure that their school? I guess your suggestion is that we kind of do it and then.
If there are objections, then there are objections. And if the calendar gets adopted, it gets adopted. And if we run into a problem, we change it.
Got it. So yes, let's probably. Do you have a preference of whether we start at high school and go down, or start at the younger schools and go up?
It does not matter. I usually start with ECP and work my way up because it's easy, but I don't care.
Let's do it. Let's start with ECP and work our way up. But then again, we need to let's take Kelly's or I forgot whose suggestion it was around winter months. So January, September, and October. Let's do in person, and then so we can have 2 schools there. November, December, and January. I guess we'll do Zoom, and then resume in. I mean, February is still the winter time, but so maybe those 4 months we'll do Zoom, and then in March we will connect it to schools again.
Okay, so you've got ECP in September. Does that mean the Lee F. Jackson building to you? Or does that mean trying to crowd into the ECP separate building? I've never done the ECP building. I've done Jackson.
Dr. Iverson, do you know if?
What do you think?
I would think Jackson.
Okay.
Jackson, I would think Jackson if we.
So we'll start at Lee F. Jackson, and then we'll do Highview in October. And then we'll do Bailey in March. And then we'll do Woodlands in April. And then do you want to find other venues? Do you want to cycle around again?
I think we can figure out the venue. We'll.
Then it's LFJ for May, and then Highview for June.
I would put that one as like TBD, so that maybe it's not at a school. Maybe we do it, somewhere else. Maybe we do it. Does it have to be at a school? Like, is it?
Doesn't have to be in a school. Okay, where would you like to do? Which one do you want to have a TBD? May or June?
June.
June. All right, TBD. So if you want to volunteer your backyard, great. And you can cook too. I know it. I know you can cook.
Maybe.
Now, one more question. At the beginning of this year, when we were still in COVID and we were not allowed to do that outdoor activity, you went out and did this event that was like not officially a school district event, but it had many of the features of a school district event, and it was at the Theater Young Community Center, but outside. Do you want to try and do that as a school meeting, as an event sponsored by the school next year?
We took. I'm gonna acquiesce to.
You want to leave that to what? Don't, if it's not broke, don't fix it, and do what you did last year. I don't care.
No, I would much rather do it in conjunction with the school district, where we have an educational purpose associated with it, so that there's no challenge of running afoul to any of the rules.
Yeah, we were going to piggyback on, if you did that again, your event, and do something celebratory with the summer reading program, remember?
Right.
And combined it. So that's the educational piece we can bring to that, where the students are recognized in some way, or it's celebrating them reading their books that they received today over the summer.
And so we've got to negotiate that venue out in terms of who's available when and all of that. So do we want us to pull a date out of the hat now, or do we want to you want to go and negotiate that separately?
I would tend to say we probably should negotiate it separately. My summer schedule is all over the place, but I do think sooner rather than later, Dr. we should have that discussion, and then maybe we'll wind up reaching out to everybody for I don't know if there's special committee meetings, but maybe we'll wind up reaching out to folks for a special committee meeting in July, in order to best plan for an event in August or September.
And then we had this sort of year-end review thing that happened. I don't know if you want to think of that as a CEC based thing or not. I don't know if you want to do that in the fall, if you also want to do it in the spring, like you just did it.
So that's a good question. Does this committee want, maybe I missed that. I know it was something you asked me about, but is that something you want to sponsor? If this comes out of this committee, that's the clarity I need.
We just had this list of people, and we just said, here, our job is to get people in the room. And then we say, and here you are, Superintendent Iverson, clap, 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 cheer, cheer. And then everything just like you just did it in the last meeting.
Okay.
And that was how it worked before. But, you've certainly upped the game in terms of the amount of content that you presented. And the question is, how often would you want to do it? And would you want us to do that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I would think end of the year again, like something like that, end of the year.
Year in review, okay.
And I like the idea now that it's going to be sponsored through CEC. That if that's how you, okay.
Okay.
Then this committee can even help me in the planning of that. Okay.
Okay, very good. So now we have our bookends. We have our beginning of year piece, and we have our end of year piece as events, and we have our meetings. Very good.
That's great. And the word can get out through this vehicle to more people.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think I like that.
Good job, Jamal.
Thank you. Couldn't have done it without you, Dave. So that's all I had for this evening. I'm not sure if anybody else has any questions, comments, concerns. We are after 9 o'clock, and I want to respect everybody's time. So is there anything anybody else wanted to bring to the table before we sign out for the 2022? 2021, 2022 school year. If anybody doesn't have any, well, I will say before just thank you guys all for bearing with me and for being here, on a consistent basis to, help serve this district. We all got a lot of work to do, and I look forward to continuing to doing it with you guys. So anybody want to share anything else?
No.
All good.
All righty. Well, you guys have a fantastic evening. And I look forward
we adjourn.
Oh yeah, gotta do that. And it's at and I gotta look at the time because I never do that. 9:06 p.m. So I second David's move to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good night,
Good
folks.
summary.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
See you next time.
Good meeting.